What's up, guys? I'm Captain Mike. Welcome to my rigging station and welcome back to the Inside Scoop. Friday, July 25th, your legit Florida Keys offshore fishing report and so much more. We talk about so many cool things, all designed to make you a more successful angler. You know, I want to lead into this week's report by reiterating how important it is that you catch up on all of the reports. It's not only about what's being caught that week, but there's so much information there that helps you build that big picture. So if you're serious about getting tight and staying tight, make sure you catch up on all of the previous reports as well. Okay, look, first let's talk a little bit about weather. We've got some weather here this weekend. It's gonna blow east 15 to 20. Okay, today, tomorrow. It's gonna start to diminish on Sunday. I think it's gonna go a little bit more northeast, okay? However, you certainly can expect it to be bumpy over the next couple of days. If you plan on heading out later today or certainly tomorrow, plan accordingly. Inshore, 3 to 5s, offshore, bigger than that. Okay, you've got an easterly wind, especially when it's colliding with the Gulf Stream. If you're gonna, brave it and go out there looking for bigger dolphin, just be prepared to battle some bigger seas as well. Like I said, Sunday it's going to start to diminish, and by early next week, looks like we're in for a great stretch of weather. It's going to be flat calm for a number of days, not very rainy and stormy, so really some nice weather. I think the biggest issue that we're having right now is how hot it is. Super, super hot. Well, it feels like it's well over 100 degrees every day. So stay hydrated. That doesn't mean what case is a Budweiser. Okay, that doesn't help you in any way. Actually, that hurts you. So, of course, I don't need to tell you, but drink plenty of fluids. This way you can stay on your toes and fish hard all day. All right, let's get into it here, guys, because there's a lot of different things that I want to talk to you about. I'm going to ask you to just bear with me a little bit, fighting a cold or just getting over a cold. Seems to happen to me every time I go to ICAST or one of these big events and shake hands with a million people. Somewhere along the line, somebody's got the cooties. Nevertheless, look, the reef fishing continues to remain strong, but I want you to understand, it's not every day, everywhere on fire, okay? It doesn't work like that. Yeah, there's a lot of fish there. The mangrove bite is on. There's no question. Nobody can deny that. But it's not on every minute of every day. You can fish a spot today, not get a bite, and go back there tomorrow and crush them in the exact same spot. It's all about conditions. It's such a conditions-driven fishery. It really is. And I can't stress how important it is to have that moving water and that current. Otherwise, everything is just sitting still. You could be lined up with 20 boats and you're watching them. Nobody's catching anything. Okay, you're watching them. It's just not happening. So don't fight Mother Nature. You're not going to win. You can't snap your fingers and suddenly make the water start moving. It doesn't work like that. That's one of the factors that we really stress in our hands-on instructional fishing courses is how to control everything that you can control and how to learn to deal with the things that you can't control. We can't control Mother Nature, wind, waves, watercolor, current, tide, water temperature, cloudy, sunny, windy, not windy, etc. These are things that we have to deal with on a daily basis, and we have to react accordingly based on what we want to do on that given day. But the things that you can control, you have to. And you can control when you pick up and move. You can control what you're going to fish for and when. So, make those good decisions. But if you find yourself in that, strike zone at the right time, you should definitely do well with mangrove snappers on the reef, no question. There's a few groupers mixed in, but right now it's all about the mangroves. If you're looking for bigger snappers like the muttons, absolutely. A lot of the local wrecks up and down the island chain are holding muttons, but of course that fishery continues to shine in the dry tortugas, no question. And out toward the west out there, is where you're going to find the American red snappers mixed in with the mutton snappers. A lot of guys are cashing in on both of them. Speaking of snapper, there's a couple of snapper species that are really kind of underrated, I believe, around the Keys that don't get the attention that they deserve. One of them being vermilion snapper. I really enjoy catching vermilions, okay? They're almost like a day saver. I mean, as long as you can find some structure out in 200 to 300 feet of water, you should be able to put some fish in the boat, Chicken rigs a lot of guys use, and what do I mean by a chicken rig? Typical 4 or 5, even 3, it doesn't matter how many hooks, but lined up and down like a deep drop rig. That's what everybody really uses for vermilions. But don't discount longer leaders and trying to target these fish one-on-one in order to find the bigger ones, because that's how you do it. Mixed in with the vermilions or yellow eyes, you know, and again, there's not a lot of spots that hold these here in the mid-keys. I've had excellent success up off Isle Morada. There's fantastic structure up there. Let me tell you something, out in that 400 to 600 foot range, you couldn't fish all of that bottom in a lifetime. It's truly remarkable. And I don't know, you know, what kind of charting equipment or electronics you have on your boat, but if you don't see it, then you really need to equip yourself with a Furuno TZT XL network, because it will change your angling career. I promise you that. Nevertheless, those fish go underrated. Smaller hooks, smaller leaders, you know, lighter, stealth, fresh baits, nice clean pieces of squid, a fresh chunk from a ballyhoo. Bonita often works. You know, some days they prefer to eat one bait over the other, but it's a relatively easy fishery. And like I said, it's a great alternative. You go to the reef to get in on the mang bite and it doesn't happen. It doesn't blow up. It doesn't even turn on. What do? Right? Great time to go hit some deeper wrecks and see if you can catch a limit of vermilions, you know, 5 per person. But nevertheless, like I said, I feel it's underrated and it's a great eating fish. The small ones, look, you know, come on, don't even waste your time. You get tiny fillets, they're kind of mushy. I kind of compare it to, I would have to say, yellowtail snapper. It's just like yellowtail snapper. The small ones, you know, tend to be a little soft and mushy. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, of course not, especially if you set up a slush bucket, you know, salt water, ice, really, really cold. As soon as you catch that fish, boom, right in the slush. That's a great, great way to preserve your bottom fish, really any fish, in absolutely the best possible condition. Okay, we do that on our 41C Hunter up in the lounger, our fish box, one of them, you know, on the starboard side that we use. We create a slush in there, and I'll tell you what, really does a great job at keeping those fish in prime shape for the dinner table. And that's what it's all about. You know, respect that catch, okay? So you've got the yellow eyes, the vermilions, the mangroves we talked about, the muttons we talked about, the red snapper, queen snapper is another possibility, okay? Offshore, deep dropping around the humps. There's not a lot of spots, but the guys, if you know, you know. You know, there's certainly a number of guys that are dialed in. It's a little bit of a different fishery. It takes a little bit more patience, a little bit more lead, a little heavier tackle. But if you get in on them queens, once again, it doesn't take much to turn a day around. A beautiful 12, 14, 16, you know, giant queen snapper. Let me tell you something, that's going to change, you know, the outcome of that day for sure. So they're a beautiful fish, crimson red, you know, just bright red, so gorgeous, especially the bigger ones with the sickles coming off their tails. But that's a worthy adventure, you know, that's a worthy, you know, thing to try, is to go out there right now and try and catch one of those queens. Of course, when it calms down a little bit, you're going to be much better off than trying in 6 to 8 foot seas. And, you know, we don't see a lot mixed in with the queens because we're not really targeting them. I don't want to say not really. We do not target the queens in the same areas where we're targeting tilefish and deep water groupers, which, by the way, is closed. So it's a different bottom, different depth, different structure, different area. And we tend not to see too much mixed in. Fish a little bit deeper and you'll find a barrelfish. You'll also find a black belly rosefish, okay, which are delicious and very reliable. So there's definitely some deep drop targets out there right now that are worth you know, putting in your time and effort. The dolphin bite, come on. It remains so strong. It really does. It's truly unbelievable how many dolphin are being caught this season. And I want to just, you know, stress one more time, especially to the local charter boat community, because a lot of you guys are guilty of sin, okay? And don't tell me you're not. I see it with my own eyes. Look toward the future. Look ahead. You know, is it necessary to harvest so many of those smaller fish? You know, I don't know what the issue is there. I really don't. They're fun to catch as many as you want, but do you need to bring home 30, 40 fish? I mean, come on, be a little bit more conservation minded. It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I don't know if it's ego, if it's you're trying to sell filleted fish that you could ship home and charge them money for that too. I don't know what it is, okay? But that's the straight up scoop. Why? Okay, just, you're a great fisherman, I promise you. You know, you're great. You're doing wonderful. You don't need to bring home so many fish. so many dolphin, especially these smaller ones. I'm questioning, I'm seeing, these fish being held up, and I'm like, is that really even 20 inches? I mean, if you have to question if it's a 20-inch dolphin, I don't know if that's something that you want to keep, honestly. We've been really focusing a lot of our efforts on finding bigger fish. We recently launched an all-new hands-on course called the Offshore Bull and Cow course, where we're running way offshore and using specific tactics and techniques to find bigger dolphin. I'd rather catch one gaffer than 10 schoolies, and hopefully you're like me. Just recently this week, we had a fantastic trip. Man, we had a beautiful cow, and as that cow was coming closer to the boat, lo and behold, there's the bull. Haven't told this story yet, but fortunately, we were able to get the cow. As that bull was swimming up, we threw a ballyhoo, boom, smacked it, sucked it down, game on. 45-pound bull dolphin. Fought him for about 30 minutes before he spit the hook. No tackle failure, nothing like that. Angler did great. We did great. Closing the gap right at the end there with the boat, and hook just came out. Couldn't even believe it. But what an opportunity, right? What a chance. And we were fortunate, like I said, to get the cow. We had some other decent-sized fish as well. But, again, we're sacrificing a lot of the smaller fish. So if you're looking for the bigger dolphin, now's the time to do it. There's no question. But run further offshore. Okay, I'm seeing a lot more bigger fish being caught further offshore. There's no question. 1,200, 13, 1,500, even deeper. Over the edge into the 2,000s. I mean, if you really want to push it. And I'm telling you, you're going to see it's like a different world out there. And while the numbers may not be there, I believe that the quality, you're certainly going to have a greater opportunity to bigger fish out there than you will, near shore. But it's dolphin, and these things pop up everywhere all of the time when you least expect it. You know what I'm saying? So, there we go. When you least expect it, they could be anywhere. So, we were out also on a deep drop course 12 miles off the beach, and we're watching a blue marlin chase dolphin. 12 miles off the beach, right here off Marathon. So again, it's just a magic world out there. It really is. But you have to make educated decisions and, really focus your efforts this time of the year where you think it's going to make the most sense, especially if you're looking for quality. If it's just those numbers, there's plenty of schoolies out there, like I said, but you've got to put in the time. You may not find them on every, weed line, on every bird pack. But if you do it 10 times, you only need to be right once, okay, in order for it all to come together. So small little chuggers, little Zacatecas, and the extra small is a good option. Of course, there's the, ballyhoo. I don't need to tell you, if you don't know that a rigged ballyhoo is a great bait for dolphin, well, you know that. So in turn, there's a lot of options as far as the dolphin fishing is concerned right now. While we're on the subject of offshore, I want to touch on sword fishing because that remains very strong, the daytime swordfish bite. The guys that are putting in the time and the effort, we're talking about multiple bites per day. Hot depth, 1,600 to 1,800 feet. Key Largo to Key West, anywhere, get out there, put in the time, put in the effort. You're going to have a great shot at a swordfish bite. Okay, we fish 2 rods, the tip rod, the buoy rod. I prefer the hooker electrics over the LPs, just a little bit more maneuverable, faster. It's kind of, a lot of guys call it like the Frankenstein of electric reels, how it's put together. But nevertheless, it gets the job done. I'm very happy with them, and they work great for me. Matched on the Chaos swordfish rods, it's just a killer combination. Guys, look, the humps, that's another option. Everybody's still running out to the humps. They're catching the blackfin tunas. There's some skipjacks still mixed in. Dolphin are out there as well. We went by the hump the other day when we were offshore looking for bigger dolphin. I don't know, there was probably about 25 boats there, 2, 3 in the afternoon, whatever it was. So a lot of traffic, out there on these popular humps, but for good reason. They're go-to spots, and if you have nowhere else to go there, I guess, right? Look, another thing I wanted to talk to you about here, we touched on the dolphin fishing, bigger dolphin. We touched on sword fishing, right? And there's so many other fisheries, the blackfin tuna. But there's one thing that's really common across all of these fisheries, and that's gaffing fish, right? And as soon as I say that word, half of you out there are probably like, oh my God, you get nervous just hearing the word gaff. It scares you, okay? It's so funny. It's such a, I don't want to say easy thing to do, but relatively easy, but yet people are so intimidated. Anglers are so intimidated by gaffing fish, and they shouldn't be, okay? But there's some, really useful tips, helpful tips that I want to share with you that are going to make you a better gaffer, so to speak, okay? But first, I want to just remind you that in addition to that reef bite, remember what I said, that the snowy groupers, the tilefish is closed, as far as a deep drop, but there are other deep drop opportunities. Of course, the popular dolphin, there's no question. Everyone is down here for dolphin. The sword fishing, the fishing at the humps, a lot of opportunities. We touched on the wreck fishing, especially for some of those off species, the vermilions, the yellow eyes, they're there, okay? Do the homework. Find the structure. Put in the time. All right, rig right. If you're not sure how to rig, we've got videos on Florida Sport Fishing TV Plus that discuss all sorts of rigs for a variety of species. However, across the board, I want you to remember, lighten up if you can, be as stealthy as possible, make sure every connection is perfect. Don't let tackle failure enter the equation, okay? The vast majority of fish that are lost because of either tackle failure or angler failure. Okay, they really are. So don't let tackle failure enter the equation. And we're about to talk about how to avoid angler failure as well. Okay, look, let's get into it. The guy who says, I'm going to gaff the fish, whatever fish it is, it's your responsibility to control the situation. Understand that. Take a deep breath. Make sure you get the right tool in your hand and control the situation. Communicate. Communicate with the captain. Communicate with the angler who's on the rod as well. First and foremost, use the right tool. We carry a variety of different gaffs for different purposes. This is your standard 2-inch gaff. I'm going to kind of bring it closer to the camera. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't get blurry and you can see it. Okay, but that is a standard 2-inch gaff. I'm then going to show you a 3-inch gaff. Okay, right there you can see the bite. The hook is substantially larger than the 2-inch right below it right there. All right, so we've got 3-inch up here. We've got a 2-inch. And now I'm going to take it to the next level and show you a 4-inch gaff right there. Okay, and you can see, of course, the difference in the big difference in the size, especially from the 2 to the 4-inch gaff. You've got, this is a huge gaff. So first I have to decide what gaff am I using, right? And that's all going to depend on the size of the fish. I can't use a gaff that's too small because I'm not going to get a big enough bite. I can't use a gaff that's too large because the fish is going to literally slide and I could miss the fish altogether. So a large 4-inch gaff like this is really reserved for swordfish and big tuna. Bigger tuna than you and I are catching right here in the Keys, I promise you that. So this is a swordfish gaff. That's what it boils down to. I get a nice big bite, okay? It's longer. I designed it longer. So this way I could really reach out, because remember, our 41 Sea Hunter is a big boat with big gunnels, and if that swordfish is out there, I need to be able to reach out and stick them. So we've extended, and by the way, these are Merida gaffs, all right? Really classic, just special gaffs. They really are, okay? And they're custom built, by the way. You can see our logos on there. Really, really cool. Not a plug for Merida, but the product speaks for itself. So that's really reserved for sword fishing. Big dolphin, wahoo, I'm going to a 3-inch gaff. I want to get a nice bite on there. You know, I want to get a good bite on the fish. Also relatively long, as you can see right there, 8 feet. Once again, I could reach out. Now keep in mind, everybody's boat is different. If you're in a smaller boat with low gunnels, do you need to carry around 8-foot gaffs? I don't think so. But if you're in a big center console like we are, especially a big cat, you know, up in the bow there, you're way up off the water. And when you've got a gaff fish there, anything shorter than this is really going to create a problem. If I could, I'd probably have a 10-foot gaff. That's why you see a lot of the professional king mackerel fishermen use these really long extended gaffs, because they know once that fish sees the boat and he's just a few feet away from the boat, he's going to take off again. And so many fish are lost in that last 30 seconds of the fight. I know it's happened to you as well. Okay, if you spend enough time on the water, you're going to lose fish right at the end of the game there. Okay, it's going to happen. For schoolies, muttons, other big bottom fish, blackfin tuna, a 2-inch gaff is going to work perfect. And remember, this is not a flimsy 2-inch gaff. It's the same gauge steel as the 3-inch. This is a really, really strong hook. There's no question. You are not bending that. I don't care what you do. You are not bending that hook right there. So that's our probably most popular gaff right there, is that 2-inch. And then, like I said, the 3-inch, and of course the 4-inch, and we carry multiple gaffs of each size. Now, a couple things to remember. Always when you're gaffing, think safety first. Remember, there's a big sharp hook at the end of the stick, okay? A big sharp hook. So you don't want to be swinging this around the boat, okay? Remember that. Always grab that gaff and the hook goes up above your head, okay? It goes up. Hold the gaff straight up and down, okay? Don't hold it sideways. Don't start turning it on the boat like this. Trust me, it's a recipe for disaster. Hold the gaff straight up and down. I'm now ready and really getting myself psyched up to gaff that fish that's coming alongside. Next, I'm going to orientate the hook and make sure that that hook is in the 6 o'clock position. Okay, look at the hook. 6 o'clock position. That would be 12 o'clock. That would be, we'll call it 3 o'clock. 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, etc. So I'm in the 6 o'clock position because I'm always going to reach over the fish and sweep in. You're never going to be going under the fish and lifting up. That's a mistake. Always reach over the fish and sweep in. Okay, remember that. So I need to know where that hook is. So it's always in that 6 o'clock position. And I don't even need to look at it. I can literally gaff a fish or do whatever because I know that that hook is in the correct orientation. So make sure that you're aware of that when you're preparing yourself to gaff fish. Next, as I mentioned, you're always going to reach over and in. Now, a lot of guys say, shoot for a headshot. Obviously, you don't want to damage any of the meat, so we all go for a headshot. But there's times where I'm going to tell you guys, just go for center mass. Just get the damn thing in the boat. Okay, if there's a little gaff hole in the side of it, it's not the end of the world, especially if it's a big fish. Don't be a hot shot and think you've got to get that perfect shot. But understand, there's a reason that we go for the head, and it's not only to preserve the flesh, but also you have much better control of that fish. If you gaff a fish toward the tail, and he's able to swim away from you, there's a good chance he can rip right off the gaff or even rip the gaff out of your hands. Even center mass on a bigger fish, that could easily happen as well. So, try and get him up forward where you can control that fish and get his head up and out of the water. Again, the person gaffing, it's your responsibility to make sure that you don't kill any fellow anglers with the gaff. So always pay attention to who's around you at all times. You may have to direct the angler who's on the fish. Step back, step to the left, step to the right. Remember, I can't gaff over someone's shoulder. Okay, I can't do it. If I have an angler right here and he's fighting a fish that's over here, I need to be in between the angler and the fish. I cannot be gaffing over top of the angler. It's dangerous and ineffective. Okay, remember that as well. Once you have the fish impaled on the gaff, okay, and remember, this is a hook. This is the funniest thing. You ever see somebody, it's not an axe. What are you doing? You're slapping the fish with a gaff. This is not an axe, okay? This is a hook. You have to hook the fish, not hit the fish over the head and knock him out. That would be a club. This is a gaff. Out, in, okay? And impale that hook on the fish. Nice smooth motion. This is sharp. The fish is heavy. Don't go crazy and think that you've got to do this crazy sweep. Reach over, jab, a quick little jab, pull in, and you now have that fish impaled on the gaff. He's not going to go anywhere. You could even hold him up next to the boat. Hold him alongside the boat. You look around, make sure that there's no one that potentially is going to get hurt by lifting a fish up over the side. That fish could have really sharp teeth. A big kingfish or a wahoo could kill you. I'm telling you, not intentionally, but it could bite you and literally cut an artery and you'll bleed to death out on the ocean. I hate to be gruesome, but it could happen. Look at it that way. So be very, very careful, okay? You've got that fish on, look around, no one's around you. Lift the fish up, just lift the gaff straight up into the boat, shake the fish off the gaff, and then once again, lift the gaff straight up and over the side. The hook goes over the side when you swing the gaff. Always swing the hook over the side of the boat. Do not swing the hook inside the boat, behind you in the boat, okay? No, that hook always needs to be outside of the boat when you swing it up, okay? It's that simple. And look, if you miss on the first shot, take a deep breath. It's okay, relax, okay? Relax. It's a tenseful situation. Maybe it's a really nice quality fish, and the last thing you want to do is blow it, right? But if you don't keep your cool, you could blow it. You can get the line wrapped around the tip of the gaff. I've seen guys rip lures and hooks out of fish's mouth, break fish off on the leader because they've wrapped it on the gaff. So many different instances occur, which is why so many people are afraid to gaff, to be the designated gaffer. You shouldn't be. Just follow those simple guidelines. And really, at the end of the day, by having the right tool for the job, taking a deep breath, controlling the situation, you're going to see that it's easier than you even believe. And remember, I just can't stress this enough. Don't get excited. Don't start screaming and yelling. Do it the right way, okay? This is when you're closing the deal, right here. This is when it all comes together, right at the end, the guy on the gaff. So, like I said, just take your time, do it right, and you'll certainly get them in a boat. Make sure you've got the right tool for the job. I can't stress that enough. Don't go out there with this, okay? Don't go out there with one gaff and it has a 4, 5, or 6 inch hook. It's ridiculous. It really is. So honestly, just make sure you've got the right tool. Guys, also look, a couple of updates for you real quick. I want to share with you the status of our upcoming angling retreat and the launch of Captain Mike Genoun's Offshore Fishing Academy. We are very close. We are, I would say, 60 to 90 days away, maybe sooner, of wrapping this thing up here. Man, the last 5% just seems to, feel like it's taken 95% of the time. But that's building in the Keys. Those are the challenges that we face. But it's definitely going to be worth the wait. We're launching, as I mentioned earlier, we're expanding on our courses to include daytime sword fishing, deep dropping. We've added the new offshore bull and cow course. That's really awesome. A tremendous amount of interest with that already. Kite fishing, wahoo fishing, reef and wreck fishing options. So many cool fisheries down here in the Keys, but really all designed, and all of these courses are designed to teach you, okay, to help you shorten a learning curve and to help you take your game to the next level. Look, don't have a big ego. I don't have a big ego. We're all constantly learning. That's what this is all about. If you're just looking for a joyride, go somewhere else. But if you really want to take your angling, success to another level, I want you to consider Captain Mike Genoun's Offshore Fishing Academy, especially now that we'll be able to offer you accommodations for 2-day courses, dockage. We encourage anglers to bring their own boats. Okay, so we could fish with you on your boat. You could fish with us aboard our Mercury-powered Sea Hunter, and then we could fish with you. You could fish on your own. We've got the local knowledge. We've got the resources that you need, all of the amenities, bait freezers, commercial ice maker, full rigging station, and really the best support that you could get, no question. So just keep that in mind. We're already booking wahoo courses for this winter, and we're about to launch our deep drop courses, which start May 2026 again. I know that seems like a ways away, but it'll be here before you know it. But if you have any interest in the wahoo fishing, we're talking 2 full days of wahoo fishing that are going to cover trolling plugs, high-speed trolling, live bait fishing, okay, with the accommodations, with everything that you need. Now's the time to inquire. Okay, now is the time, because wahoo season's going to be here before you know it. It really is. So, look, I'm going to leave you with that. Again, I can't thank you enough for watching every week here. I want you to, like I said, pick up on all of this knowledge. Be sure to join Florida Sport Fishing TV Plus if you're not already a member. A lot of great membership benefits, including that 24/7 fishing helpline. Stay tight, get out there this weekend, and I'll see you on the water.